everybody, I'm Connor, that's Doug, and this is the Bethel School District Presents podcast, and we are on location this week. We're at the Pierce County Skills Center. We are going to be speaking with Mechatronics teacher Nisa Maxim. Normally, with an interesting topic like that, we jump right in, but Nisa has a very interesting background, and we want to talk about that first. So Nisa, a little birdie told us that you actually worked on the Mars Rover. Is that true? And can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yes, I am a sensor person. So that's what I do. When I started my PhD, which is a part of my research assistant job that I work with on that rover, my professor is the MIT graduate, and he got the contract from NASA, and he formed a Center of Space Research and Technology at the University of Texas when I was doing my doctorate degree. In the year 2011, when I started, Spirit rover just landed on the Gusev crater on Mars. And then they take a bunch of pictures, and they saw that there are a bunch of what we call the volcanic bomb. It's just like a big block of rock that's just shooting out. So when you see something like that, we have to find out how to navigate the rover around it. And then the volcanic block have a lot of high magnetite of iron content in it. So we figure out that if we use the magnetic sensor, we can figure out where the volcanic bomb is located, and we can navigate around the Gusev crater. So that is the plan, that we're going to implement this magnetic sensor into the next rover that's going to go, which is going to be Curiosity that's going to go next.
So it sounds like you are probably very hard at work at your specific thing that you are charged with doing. But did you ever kind of take a moment and kind of just appreciate the uniqueness of humans having some form of mechanized object on Mars? It's pretty amazing to have to play a role in that, I would assume.
Definitely. It's just, I mean, my part is just a small part from everything else, but I just work on a small sensor, right? Just like this big magnetic sensor. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy to be part of something big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Chinese, they have a radar, they have GPR. We have a magnetics. I want to work on the gravity sensor as well. There are so many things that you can work on, and yeah, the administration of that part is really tricky. Like, how you're going to secure the funding the next year, how you're going to secure the contract the next year. You got a new president, and now you don't have a funding, and then the funding shifts to somewhere else, and
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
Lots of moving parts.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I love a good pun. Riship, one of your students who's here, also joining us is Galia. Now, Riship is a senior at Bonnie Lake, and Galia is a junior at Bethel High School, both students of yours here in the Mechatronics program. Before we dive into what is Mechatronics, because it's a new term for a lot of folks here, especially in our district, what made you make this transition from outer space to right here in Pierce County?
Just family life. My husband's in the military, so we've been moving around. After Texas, I finished my school, and then we moved to Germany. So we stationed there for 3 years, and then after Germany, we stationed here at JBLM. So we moved here in 2018, and I'm looking around for something that I can do. I was teaching construction for some time.
Construction?
Yeah, because of what I do on the magnetic. I know about the landform. So I know how to do the foundations and all the stuff as well. And then, and now I'm switching to teaching. But it's always going to be my goal. I always like teaching, even though I doing research, but it's going to be to get into academia, to get to the teaching. I didn't know that this exists until they opening the job last year. So I was like, oh, I could do this. Back in my time when I was in school, we learned in different way. We learned mechanics. We learned electronic, but not mechatronic together. So back in the day, we trained the student to work on the machine to go to the industry. And now as the world progresses, we want to train them to use the computer to computerize the machine so they can work with the machine with more precision to the industry level. But now that we move to the next phase, we don't want to just computerize the machine anymore. We want to automatize the machine so they can do the work for us. And that is the next step in the humankind.
So Nisa, that was a really nice job of kind of explaining from your perspective what this mechatronics is all about, but let's bring in the students now and see what their perspective is. So Rishabh, how would you describe mechatronics as far as you've experienced it so far?
Okay, so my experience as a senior, it is a very wonderful field. Yes, it is kind of a new field for the public. Some people are still like, what is mechatronics? Do you guys work with engines and stuff? But I'm like, no, we work with all STEM fields, wiring, programming, literally anything. And as I see myself in the future, and I'm going to get my mechatronics degree in college, I never see myself jobless. There's always job, always something for me to do. I can be a designer at a Nike or Puma. But yeah, it's like a very diverse field for young people to, like, especially people that always want to find a new challenge, a new adventure. It's like always there. There's always a challenge. There's always a hurdle in the way. And I really like to work with that kind of stuff.
That's great. And Galia, what about you? How do you kind of define the mechatronics as far as your experience has gone?
As far as my experience, kind of the same as his. I came into this class blank. And to come in blank, it's a bit more difficult, I would say, because you're not really used to the terms and everything. But as he said, when we tell people we're in a mechatronics class, when there's like college and career fairs, they're like, what is mechatronics? And I think it's always great that we get to explain to them what we do. And like you said, we've gone to Clover Park Technical College, where we've had people from these companies speak to us and tell us their journeys, that they're not stuck in one job. They're constantly moving from this job to another job, finding new things to do. And I think it's really great that we're pretty much always going to be employed. And as it's growing, we hope that we just get more job opportunities. And I think it's great for us.
That's what I think too, because if people getting laid off, right, because they got replaced by AI and robot, but we are people that design the robot. Yeah. So we're not going to get to be run out of job.
I think that's fantastic. When I've heard people talk about mechatronics, I've heard them really kind of shrink it down to, well, you know, it like Amazon warehousing, where you have robots and computers and people all working together. And so that was kind of what was in my head coming into this. But it sounds like it's a lot bigger than just that, even though we do have a Amazon warehouse just almost right next door now, which is fantastic for folks like you coming right out of Skill Center. I'm sure we'll get some hires pretty quick right out the door. What is the reason that both of you chose mechatronics to study here at the Skills Center? It's brand new. You probably had to study and find out what it was. So let's start with you, Galia.
For me, I definitely had to search it up because it was new to me. And as I searched up and as I watched the videos, I saw that this was something that was growing in the industry and it was becoming bigger. And I think I wanted to become a part of that movement. And it just seemed really interesting to me how we were able to automate processes that weren't automated, let's just say like a few years before. And I just found it really interesting.
Awesome. Risham, how about you?
Well, I kind of knew about mechatronics. I didn't know it like fully. I'm part of my school robotics team, so I'm kind of familiar with the field. When I found out that this is a program and my mom suggested that you should try it out, and yeah, I'm very happy that I did, because the skills that I learned and I know are being used every way, and I'm very happy that I can improve them. And when I get out of Pierce County Skills Center, I will have very big opportunities, because I showed my resume to one of the companies and they were like, this is a very good resume. So I'm like, yay.
That's great. And it sounds like there are just kind of endless practical uses for the knowledge you're getting. So Nisa, how do you incorporate that hands-on learning into the coursework, and why is that important for the students?
We have to learn how to do things and fix things, right? So my goal is that I want the kid to be able to design the automatic system. Anything that moves, they can design the thing that moves. So we have different lessons in different days. I have a day that they do hands-on on the mechanic. They just learn all how to work on the gear. They're working on the lever. They're working on the fastener. So that's the mechanical part. There's a day that they have to control those devices with electronic. Can they connect the motors? Can they do multiple motors? Can they do a solenoid? Can they do the pneumatic solenoid? All those stuff. And then another day, we're going to do the programming. Can you program those electronic to do it automatically?
Again, very fascinating stuff. So my question to you, Nisa, is you come from a very high-level mechatronics background. You're working at NASA. It doesn't get much more high-level than that, working with NASA and working with MIT professors, things like that. Was there a challenge for you coming in and kind of taking it down to people who are just learning this for the first time?
I start with the lesson plan, but then if it's too hard, you have to adjust it down. The thing is that we need to have the right challenge. If the challenge is too much, they're going to give up. But if the challenge is too low, then they're going to get bored. So we have to adjust the challenge. But it's a part of the learning. Because mechatronics, when it doesn't work, that's your job to troubleshoot. Right? Is it a sensor fault? Is it the actuator fault? Is it the electronic fault? Is it the code fault?
Yeah, and that problem solving, I think, is a lot more complex than Connor and I's if we remember to hit record or we didn't plug a microphone in right. You're dealing with pneumatic solenoids, which I'll have to Google later, but sometimes plugging the headphones in is difficult for me. So so let's talk a little bit about that hands-on learning with both of you students. We'll start with you, Galia. I guess my question is, would this class even be possible to learn without being hands-on?
I don't think so. I think it'd be very difficult to teach. It's just there's so many aspects of it that require hands-on. We've done scale drawings that requires a lot of hours, and it's hands-on. Building whatever project we're working on, that's very hands-on. Everything is very hands-on. Building breadboard circuits, even just doing everything on computers, it's very hands-on. Because we need to see what's going to work and what isn't going to work. We need to know how to work with these tools. We need to know what this tool is called. We need to know how to use all of these machines, and it's just very helpful.
And one thing that I'm getting loud and clear is this is a challenging class, and by design. So, Galia, what would you say has been the most challenging aspect of the course so far for you?
For me, there's so many things that you have to learn. You have to learn how to do circuits. You have to learn how to program. You have to learn how to use these machines. You just have to learn everything, and it's just very challenging.
And Rishabh, what about you? Anything stand out as being especially challenging?
I thought I knew almost everything, basic mechatronics, basic robotics, but I was wrong. It proved me wrong, and it taught me that I always need to keep my mind open and always keep my ears open to professionals. And even my fellow classmates, some people are very good at wiring, and I'm like, how do you do that? Some people are very good at coding, and I'm like, please teach me. So there's just from your peers, you can learn a lot. And yeah, and it just taught me how to accept my weaknesses and learn that some people are better than me, but how can I learn from them? How can I learn from others' mistakes? And I had to own up to my own mistakes.
I love that, and I love that for you as a student. I didn't have that skill when I was your age, and I struggle with it now, asking for help and other people's advice when I'm not the best at something. So that's a really good example, Nisa, of a soft skill. That's one thing that the Pierce County Skills Center prides himself on. No matter what class you're in, whether it's automotive, construction trades, or mechatronics, you're learning that skill, but then you're also learning teamwork and things like that. In mechatronics, what kind of soft skills are your students picking up?
Yep, 21st century skill, how to write email, how to navigate the big project, because mechatronic is on its own have many branches. I really like the skill that they have. I think of project management for sure.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
They learn the timing, they learn how it's going to come together.
And it sounds like that this is kind of a wide-ranging field that kind of goes off in a lot of different areas. And I would imagine, like any technology-based field, it's changing all the time. How do you stay up to date on those changes, and then how do you implement that into the classroom?
Yeah, it's lots of reading. Sometimes TikTok really help. Sometimes YouTube really help.
Yes.
So there's a lot of technology YouTuber out there too that they have a new fun project, and I like to keep up to date on that. And then because I'm in academia, so I'm always, it's my free time. I like to read stuff, and I'll bring up on LinkedIn. If somebody have a new publication, so it's always fun, and it's a part of our job. Our job is have to be up to date, so we cannot just stay idle. That is the part of being mechatronic.
Absolutely, and I got to say that's the first time I've heard TikTok being used as an example of something a teacher uses for inspiration, but that's great. I mean, if that's where the information is, then that's where you go and get it.
So, Rishabh, you've already shared that mechatronics is in your post-graduation plans. Before we talk a little bit more about that, Nisa, I want to ask you, what kind of professional fields can students look forward to when taking a mechatronics class in high school?
It's kind of competitive if you have just a high school diploma and just some certificate. But there are so many fields that would take high school students. For example, mechanical design using the CAD. So that is something that engineer will do the design for you and then give you the plan, and then you just do the drafting on the computer. So that will be a good job for the fresh out of the high school. Or, like you said, Amazon warehouse needs someone that can operate the system, right? So even though you cannot design the system as a level of engineer, you still can be the one that work on the system. You can be the one that control the system because you know how to work. And recently, I just talked to the company called New Core, and then they are some company in Tacoma that working on the carbon fiber sheet, and then you use everything is mechatronic this day because they automatic their conveyor belt. So you can, if you got the entry-level position, they want to train you to work. If you have a background in mechatronics, they will train you to work on that operating of the machine. But if you want more job opening, you're gonna go for either associate degree or bachelor degree afterward. Yeah.
That's awesome, and it reminds me that also here at the Skills Center, a lot of the classes offer a dual credit, so students can
Yes.
get a college credit along with their high school credit. Is that something Mechatronics
Yep,
has too?
that is because I'm working directly with the professor from Clover Park Technology.
Awesome.
They have mechatronic program that they open for about 8 years now, so we can fit them right in. So all the classes that I'm teaching here, it will be if I cover 80% of what they cover in college, they will earn the college credit.
I love that.
And Rishabh, you've already mentioned that this is something you want to pursue after you graduate. Do you have a specific area that you're looking at, or are you pretty open to the ideas?
Yes, I'm gonna get my mechatronics degree as a whole. I want to like learn every single field, including programming.
It sounds like the good news here is that there's a wide variety of things you can choose from, and you don't necessarily have to pin yourself down to a certain niche. And
Yeah.
if you kind of study everything, you can maybe fit in different places. So keep your options open. And Galia, what about you? Is this something, this is your first year in the program, so maybe you haven't thought so much about post-graduation plans, but is this something that you would at least consider to do as a career?
Yes, for sure, especially with the dual credit option. I think it's great to take advantage of that. Again, Clover Park has a great program as they let you work while you're studying. They have very flexible hours. So it's definitely something I've considered and I'm pretty open to the majority of stuff, but it's definitely something I've considered.
Well, this has been a great conversation. We always love coming here to the Pierce County Skills Center. There's no shortage of really cool programs and classes and amazing students. So thank you, Rishabh and Galia, for joining us, and Nisa Maxim, the mechatronics teacher. Thank you for joining us. We really enjoyed learning about your program and your work on the Mars Rover. And Connor has given me a question that he really wants to ask you. It's about Mars. It's about Mars movies, actually. Which is the most realistic Mars movie? The Martian, the one with Matt Damon, Mars Attacks, the Tim Burton movie, or Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
It's going to be The Martian. That's what's really.
I think that's the correct answer. But which is your favorite?
I actually like The Martians, to be honest. It's really realistic, and then you can see like what you. It's like, oh, that crater I work on. I look at the picture multiple times. Or that rover, I was looking at the pictures. I was working with it. I don't know. I just love The Martian.
I love that, watching that from a totally different perspective.
And I love that they solved the problem along the way.
Well, I was going to say it's one of the few movies where science is almost a superhero, so I could imagine a scientist really loving that movie.
Well, some scientists will have other opinions.
Okay, so we've got a dissenting opinion here. Are we a Martian hater?
No, I'm not a Martian hater. The Mars movie with it shows that his astronaut is stuck on Mars and how he survives. Yeah, we see in one of the scenes the astronaut is taking out a nuclear reactor that is producing radiation at the back of his seat. That would kill a normal person.
So we have to suspend disbelief a little bit.
Or just accept the fact that Matt Damon is more than human.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Nisa Maxim, along with her two students, Rishabh and Galia. We really appreciate you, and we will be back next week with a brand new episode.